Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this edition of the 12th Man. Big show coming up. We're going to be looking ahead to the Manchester Derby, looking at both managers, looking at both teams, and going to be seeing differences as well by the media towards both teams. We're going to be also looking back at the final week's European results in the group stages. We're going to be rounding all that up free, and we're going to be looking ahead to Monday's draw as well as getting into the Premier League predictions for this weekend as we start the busy schedule heading up to Christmas. So only one place to start, and that is with the Manchester Derby. Massive game on Saturday evening, 5:30. It's live on Sky Sports. Should be an absolute cracker. Just looking at this, it's obviously a big game for both teams. Both teams will still think they're quite in touch at the top. They're a game behind in terms of they've not played a game less compared to everybody else. But United's only 5 points behind the top. Man City 6 with that game in hand. So it's a massive, massive game for both teams. For me, both teams come into it in similar form in a way. Man United have obviously had a big slump in midweek. City back to back with 2-1s, but if you look at the overall form of the season, City haven't been that great, and United, have been getting results in the league. So it's a very even game coming on it for me. But if you look at it in terms of the media, everyone's talking it up like it's a big game. Man United need to win. For me, it's a big game for Man City as well because for me, the media can be quite unfair towards United at times, especially towards Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You look at the game this week and everyone's saying, "Oh, if Ole doesn't win, he's going to be sacked." Why? Yeah, it's one game in the league. All right, they went out of Europe, but it was a difficult group. You look at PSG; they were in the final last year. Leipzig, they were in the semi-final. So it was always going to be a difficult group. I think in the end, United will probably be disappointed they didn't get through. The group was on their hands with 3 games to go. But when the group was made, everyone saw it as a difficult group, and it was no guarantee they were going to get out of it. The result in Turkey obviously come back to bite them. But in the league, Man United have actually been better than Man City, not by much, only by 1 point, but they have been better than them. So for me, all this sort of negativity around United at the moment is a bit over the top. I think if they lose this game, you could possibly say, yeah, there's a bit more negativity around the team because they'll be behind Man City and they'll be back-to-back defeats. But for me, Man City come into this game under as much pressure as Man United do. You look at both managers, Ollie always seems to be one game away from the sack. I don't know why that is. Fair enough, understand he hasn't won a trophy. He's been there 2.5 years, but he inherited an absolute mess there. Whatever you say about Mourinho when he's doing the Spurs, it all went very, very sour in that last season when he left. And they were well off the pace. Ollie come in. He'd done a decent job. They almost made the top 4 from a position where they were never nowhere near it. Then last season they finished third. Yeah, it might not have been the strongest competition for top 4, but he did still finish third. So for me, I'm not saying he's done a great job. He's done a decent job. He deserves at least the end of the season for me, unless things were to go really, 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 really sour and he was to go on a really bad run. But with me, for Ollie, the best thing you can say about him and the team is whenever they do lose a game, they usually get a reaction. Coming into this game this weekend, I am expecting Man United to bounce back and perform a lot better than they did in midweek. You look at Man City on the other hand, nobody seems to talk about Pep being under pressure. Again, anyone that's watching is probably thinking, does he not know what Pep's done at Man City? Yes, he's done really well at Man City. They've won loads of trophies under Pep. But last year, it was a very, very poor season. Yes, they did won the League Cup, but for Man City standards, that's not enough. Finished well off the pace to Liverpool. And this season, they haven't been, showing any signs that they're going to get back to where they were a couple of years ago. Spoke about it on the last couple of shows that, for me, the recruitment's been poor. I'm sure Pep's been involved in that. There's no way there's somebody at Man City signing players and Pep having no say on it. So he's going to take some of the blame as well, with the scouts and with the board. He's picking these players, as I said before. Kompany hasn't been replaced. Fernandinho's not been properly replaced. I know he's still there, but he's not the player he was. Aguero, again, seen with his injury record, he's not really been replaced. He's been out with injury, and when he's come back in, he hasn't looked the same player of a few years ago. David Silva, for me, he's not really been replaced. You can look at somebody like Phil Foden, who's there. The Pep seems to be playing him 1 week and then leaving him out. For me, he needs to be playing a lot more often. And then you look at Sané. For me, Sané's a big loss. Ferran Torres has come in. Yes, he's done well in spells, but consistency-wise, he's not there yet. So for me, they're missing a lot of players from that sort of Man City team that dominated a few years ago. So there's no easy way looking and say Man City's going to get back to the level they were at a couple of years ago. And Pep does have to take some of the blame. Yes, he's got a lot more credit in the bank than Ollie, but for him just to get a free pass and all the pressure on Ollie from the media, to me, it seems pretty unfair. So if I was looking at it, I would say both teams are under pressure coming into this game. Both teams need a result. I think whichever team loses, it's gonna have a real bad knock-on effect. Um, losing a derby is never easy, but a derby of this nature, I think whoever wins it's going to really catapult themselves into a strong position. Because if we had Zach here on a few weeks ago when he was saying about United being in the title race, and he said there's an outside chance, and people were laughing at him. But if they do win this game, they're sitting well in the league. They still have that game in hand as well, so it might not be that crazy. I would be surprised if United did win it because they are an inconsistent team. But at the moment, their league form is not that far off the likes of Spurs and Liverpool. So um, very, very difficult game. I'm really looking forward to it. Just getting on it now. I'm just going to say, who needs it more? Spoke about it, but both teams really need a result. Probably because of the media, you would think Ollie needs it more. I think if they lose this, there'd be a lot more pressure on him. But as I said, I think it's a game Pep needs to win as well. I think if Man City lose this, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to get back and to get back, start crawling points back. You can only give so many opportunities to Liverpool. And if they lose this, it's another big game they've lost as well, and haven't lost to Spurs. The worrying thing for Pep coming on there, I think, is their recent record against Man United. Last year they played sort of 4 times. Man United won 3 of them, and you sort of know how the game's going to go. It's similar to how all the big games go for Man City. But United are one of the best counter-attacking teams, so Man City's going to have loads of the ball, and United's just going to try and pick them off in the counter-attack. I think the first goal will be crucial. But if Man United get it, you expect them to go on and win it. And I think if City get the first goal, then they can try and manipulate it, try and force United to come out a bit more, and then try and pick them off. But it's going to be very interesting. 2 different styles. There's no doubt that teams have worked out Pep's style, and Ollie's definitely worked it out based on their last few results. So Pep will definitely feel a bit uneasy coming on this. I'm sure he'll be trying to maybe spring a surprise. But the problem with me and Pep's been especially over the last 12 months, is Man City become very, very predictable, and there's no real evidence to suggest he's going to try anything different. So I'm 100% certain, enough that Ollie's going to be well prepared for what Man City are used to, and they'll watch that Spurs game a few weeks ago, and they'll think, we've got quite similar players to that. Bruno Fernandes can play the ball in behind for Rashford and try and pick him off. So really, really interesting. It's going to be a really fascinating game. Hard to call. I think it's going to come down to possibly who wins that battle between Bruno and Kevin De Bruyne. We've seen Zach on here a few weeks ago as well. He was saying about, he thinks Bruno possibly the best player in the league. For me, I would have to disagree on that. I do think De Bruyne is the best player in the league. Zach's right in saying Bruno's got more goal involvement since he came to the league than anybody else. For me, De Bruyne is probably the best midfielder in the world. So it will come down to that battle for me. Strangely enough, De Bruyne is shown over the last, especially this season, that he can be marked out of games, and I'm sure United will have somebody on him. We've seen what Højbjerg did to him and Sissoko did to him. Sure, McTominay, Fred will be challenged with that role, and they really will try and frustrate Man City. For me, I am siding with United. I do think United are going to win it. I think Ollie has got Pep's number at the moment in these games. I think the longer the game goes on, it really will suit United. I think if City get that early goal, it'll change everything. You would expect them to go and win it. Someone tells me United's going to do a real job. They're going to come out and try and prove a point after what happened in midweek against Leipzig. And I'm going to edge United. They won 2-1 with Bruno and Rashford stealing the show. It'll be interesting. I'm sure Zach will be absolutely buzzing if that's the case. But I do think United are going to edge it. But again, it's going to be really tight. So moving on, going to be looking at the European roundup. I'm just going to fly through it quickly. Most of you probably already know, but Chelsea, Man City, and Liverpool all top their groups. Probably no surprises here. You can look at Liverpool's group and say it might have been a bit trickier than the other two, but it's still a group I expect them to the top, and they didn't make much fuss of it. They won 4 games, drew 1, so plenty of points in the bank. Man City, I think they won 5 games and drew 1, and they only conceded 1 goal in their 6 games. I have to say it was a very, very straightforward group. And to be fair, they made light work of it as well. So big up to Man City, but bigger test they come. And Chelsea also topped their group again, pretty straightforward group. Sevilla was on there, Still expected Chelsea to top it, and again, they had a fantastic record in their group, went unbeaten. So for me, a lot of optimism around English teams in the Champions League this year. I definitely think Chelsea and Liverpool are going to have a really strong chance of going far in this competition. For me, Liverpool's probably going to be the favourites. They won it with Bayern Munich. I think if them two were to meet in the final, it would be everyone's dream final as a neutral they watch. Whether that happens or not remains to be seen. They could obviously draw each other in the quarterfinal. They can't play each other in the last 16 because they both top their group. Could meet after that. It's an open draw. But I'm sure they both want to avoid each other as well. And if they come down to the final, it's one game on one day. Chelsea are the dark horses for me in this competition. I've said it before. I really think they've got a really strong chance. They've put themselves in a strong position now because, again, they're going to be seeded. And whoever they get in the last 16, for me, they're going to be favourites to go through to the quarterfinal. So, again, Chelsea have been no mugs in this competition, and I really do expect them to go far in it. Man City, for me, again, yeah, strong position, finishing top of the group. Again, they'll get a favourable draw, and you expect them to get to the quarterfinal. But it's interesting to see who they draw after that. For me, I don't think they'll win it. I don't think they're good enough. Probably will be teams looking to avoid them because on their day they can be extremely hard to play against if they're on song. But for me, they're vulnerable, and I think they will be at least meet one team, and there that'll beat them. So moving on to the Europa League, Man United were obviously in the Champions League as well, and they dropped down in the Europa League. So Man United dropped down. Spurs, Leicester, and Arsenal all topped their group, and Rangers also topped their group, which would have been a surprise to some. Celtic obviously fallen out. They were well beat. Good result the other night though, and hopefully that kickstarts their season. Beating Lille, and Dundalk as well. Yeah, lost all 6 games, but you know what? Again, beat 4-2 by Arsenal. They can hold their heads up high. It was another really strong performance against a good side. So Dundalk will take a lot from their campaign despite the 6 defeats. So as we know, Spurs, Leicester, Arsenal all topped their group. For me, 3 of the favourites for this competition, no doubt about it. Nobody will want to play any of the English teams, and that includes Man United dropping down. They're going to be dangerous. I think United are seeded for the draw. Spurs, Leicester, and Arsenal all seeded because they topped their group. So again, I looked at the possible opponents, very, very favourable opponents. I wouldn't expect any of them not to go through. Then it's a similar sort of game to the last 16. It's an open draw, and you can play anybody. The English teams will be able to meet each other from the last 16 onwards, so it will be interesting if they drew each other. For me, Spurs and Arsenal and United and Leicester will all go far, providing they don't meet each other. If they meet each other, obviously only one of them can get through. It'll be interesting to see who sort of prioritises it more. For me, Arsenal, at the moment, from where their league position is, they'll definitely be looking at the Europa League now and thinking it's probably their best chance of getting back into the Champions League. So I can probably see them taking it a lot more seriously. Spurs and United will probably rest a lot more players. Leicester, yeah, they'll probably take it seriously too because they'll think, we're not really expected to get top 4. I expect Leicester to be up in the top 6 anyway. So there's no reason why they won't have a go in it. And if they do, they're going to be dangerous for anybody. Rangers again. I heard Jason Cundy talking about them on Talksport. He was saying, statistically, there's not a better team in Europe at the moment than Rangers. You look at their goals conceded, goals scored, their 1 percentage. I know they're playing Scottish League, but that was a difficult group in the Europa League, and they top it with Benfica on there, which is very, very impressive. And again, they've given themselves a strong chance of going far because they'll be seeded as well in the draw, and they'll probably get a favourable draw. And if you look at the teams they could be playing, they'll fancy themselves against most of them. So there's no reason to suggest they won't get to the last 16. And just speaking on from a Spurs point of view, I wouldn't fancy playing Rangers at the moment. I think if we were to play our sort of second string against them, which we've been playing, it's a very, very difficult game. So for me, they'll be a team that a lot of teams want to avoid. So that there's basically the round update. We've got the draw on Monday for both draws, Champions League and Europa League. I'm going to be going through that Monday with a guest as well. So yeah, definitely one to watch on Monday to see who the teams get. We're just going to round up the show, looking ahead the Premier League predictions. Obviously, the Premier League starts back around about an hour's time. Leeds take on West Ham tonight at 8 o'clock. Leeds, very unfortunate to be in the position they're in at the moment, sitting on 14 points. I think they're a lot better than the league position suggests. They've had a very, very tough run of games, but they've been very competitive in each game, and they should have got a lot more points in them. So for me, probably just a lack of being clinical, probably a lack of quality up front as well at times, but their style of football is definitely won me over, and I really enjoy watching them. West Ham, very, very unlucky against United last week. 60 minutes, absolutely dominated the game. And United obviously turned around with that and they showed their class in the last 30 minutes. Um, so very difficult game to call, but I do think Leeds at home are going to bounce back this week after that Chelsea defeat. Where one, I'm going to tip Leeds. They won 2-0. So moving on to Saturday, 12:30 games. Wolves against Aston Villa. Very difficult game to call. Wolves last time out, well beat by Liverpool. Didn't really turn up to be honest, but Liverpool were very, very good. And that can happen to any team against Liverpool. So wouldn't read too much into it. Villa probably again like Leeds, very, very unlucky to be the position they're in. They should be a lot higher up in the table. Um, Again, they're another team that suffers from not taking chances. Didn't play last week obviously because their game is postponed against Newcastle with COVID. Difficult game. I'm going to go for a draw. I think it's going to be tough. It's also a Midlands derby as well, so it'll be very, very competitive. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Saturday, 3 o'clock, Newcastle against West Brom. Very, very, very hard game to call because both teams stuck down there towards the end of the bottom end of the table. I expect both of them to be in a relegation fight, to be honest. Newcastle do have a knack for sort of grinding out results when they need them. West Brom obviously is going to be missing Pereira after that suspension for 3 games last week. Well beat by Crystal Palace as well. Newcastle, it's difficult because there's also been COVID issues at Newcastle. But I just have a feeling they're going to grind out another one here, and I'm going to go for a 1-0 Newcastle victory. Big one, 5:30 on Saturday. Man United, Man City. I've given my prediction already. I think Man United is going to win 2-1. Moving on to 8 o'clock game. Everton playing Chelsea, so it's an hour brilliant game. Usually all the good football's on Sunday, but this week it seems to be falling on a Saturday. With them 2 games back to back. Everton's going to put up. I would say they're going to put up a really tough test for Chelsea. I know they've had a bit of a bumpy run, but do expect them. They bounce back here and give it a really, really good go. But just think Chelsea have a bit more quality on them, and that'll be the difference in this game. I'm gonna go for a Chelsea 2-1 away one, which would really be catapulting them back into the title race as well because I already said they're dark horses for Champions League, but I really think they're going to push Liverpool all the way this year in the league. So on this Sunday, Southampton take on Sheffield United, and I've said before how you feel sorry for Sheffield United, and same again last week, getting beat 2-1 by Leicester, last minute job, and that's what happens when it's not going for you. That's what happens. You just get sucker punch after sucker punch. And going away to Southampton, there's no easy test in this league for Sheffield United at the moment. Like you just keep coming for them. Southampton's playing well. Dan Ings is back in the team as well, scoring goals. Great one away at Brighton last time out as well. And I really think they'll win this one as well. I've gone for Southampton 2-0 one. 2:15 on Saturday, Crystal Palace against Spurs. We know Spurs are flying at the moment. Northampton Derby won last week, top of the league, only on goal difference though. They seem to have a real knack for winning games. The women's Spurs, where you like watching or not, it's getting results. And this is another tricky game away to Palace. It'll be very difficult. Palace, yeah, big one last week, 5-1 victory away from home. But I think you'll see a different Crystal Palace side here. They'll be a lot more reserved. They're very expressive against West Brom and they were playing against 10 men. I think it's going to be tight. There will not be much in it. But I think Spurs will just have enough. I think that one moment of quality in the game could be the difference in the 2 teams. I've gone for a Spurs 1-0 away victory. Moving on to 4:30, Fulham against Liverpool. Liverpool have actually had a really poor away record this season. They've only won 1 game, and that was their first one away to Chelsea. Since then, they were beat 7-2 by Villa and had 3 draws in a row away to Everton, Man City, and Brighton. So again, no Liverpool will be coming on this, knowing that record, it'll be a tricky game. However, I do expect them to bounce back from these away results. I do expect them to beat Fulham. Fulham, great away one at Fulham. But again, just for me, there's something not right with them. They give away too many chances in games, and I think they'll be punished if they give away the chances they've been doing recently in games like this. So I'm going to go for a Liverpool 3-0 away victory. 7:15 on Sunday, we've got 2 games. First, those Arsenal against Burnley, and this is a massive, massive game for Arsenal. Spoke on the previous show about how Mikel Arteta's under serious pressure, and if he loses this, there might not be a second chance to put it right. I think it's a game Arsenal desperately need points on. If you look at their fixtures coming up, this is going to be the one they've really circled for their most likely one. Burnley won't be easy, but they are down where they are for a reason. They do make it difficult for teams. They'll come here and they'll put every man behind the ball. And if Arsenal don't get that early goal, it'll get very, very nervy around the Emirates, especially them losing their last 3 games at home. But I do think, well, whatever way they do it, I do think they will find a way to break Burnley down. I've gone for a 2-0 Arsenal one, but it is with caution. I just think they have to win this game, and that's going to, in the end, tell. I think they will eventually get the goals, and they will beat them 2-0. So the last game, Leicester against Brighton, 7:15 as well. Leicester have been very poor at home recently. We said lost to Fulham, and they lost to Villa, and they lost to, can't remember who the other one was, but there were some really poor results at home. Seem to be getting all their points away from home. So again, no easy game. I'm playing against Brighton, who again they're probably an our sorry story, just very unlucky at times. 1-0 up against Southampton and give away 2 silly goals. And they do play good football, but just lack that clinical edge as we said about our teams as well. So be a difficult game for Leicester, but I do think they will win this one, going for a 2-0 win. So there's the show this week, a wee short one. As a big show coming on Monday, going to be looking ahead to Liverpool against Spurs. Going to have a guest on, big Liverpool fan, to be looking ahead to that one. Also going to be reviewing the Champions League and Europa League draws and sort of looking at possible ways for teams they want it. So that's us tonight. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on Monday.